Hi, my name is Jenny Bavidge. I teach English literature at the Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Cambridge. Often when we begin our classes in English literature, we begin with a close reading. That is, paying particular attention to the words on the page. Whether it's a poem or a novel or a play, we think about the words which the author has put there. We might think about the way the work is constructed. We might think about details in the text. And then we can widen out our reading to bring in context or think more widely about the author's life and bring our own individual readings and interpretations to the work in front of us. When we're undertaking that kind of close reading, a really good place to start is at the beginning, because beginnings are special places. They're where we first encounter the work, where we first encounter the author's voice, and when we first get the sense of what the challenge of the work is going to be. A beginning is a hook to draw us in, but it's also the moment when we feel the address of the work, how it's established, how the work is going to speak to us, who it thinks we are as its readers. In his book, Beginnings, Intention and Method, a book all about beginnings and origins, the literary theorist Edward Said says, "A beginning is a problem to be studied, as well as a position taken by any writer." So let's look at three great beginnings and think about the position that the writer takes and the kind of problem that they are setting their readers. My first example is from Samuel Selvon's novel, The Lonely Londoners. One grim winter evening, when it had a kind of unrealness about London, with a fog sleeping restlessly over the city and the lights showing in the blur as if it's not London at all but some strange place on another planet, Moses Alouetta hop on a number 46 bus at the corner of Chepstow Road and Westbourne Grove to go to Waterloo to meet a fella who was coming from Trinidad off the boat train. Lots of critics have noted that there might be references or resonances here from famous works about London, which have also depicted it as a grim place. Eliot's Unreal City, for example, in his poem The Wasteland, or the beginning of Dickens's Bleak House, where the fog spreads all over London, infiltrating every corner of the city to show in Dickens's metaphor how corruption is easing into and seeping into every part of London life. The fog in Selvon's novel will come back and back again. Here it does its work by creating a hazy atmosphere, blurring the lights so that London seems to be, from Moses' point of view, a strange place on another planet. But this isn't just a repeating of familiar London images. This is the London of Moses, who at the time Selvon was writing the novel in the 50s was a new kind of Londoner, one of the people who arrived as part of the Windrush generation and found themselves often in a hostile and unreal environment, as if they really were on another planet. The narration then doesn't just introduce Moses to us. In the way that it adopts the rhythms and speech patterns of Caribbean English, so that the familiar scene of London fog and buses to Waterloo take on a new kind of identity. Even if the atmosphere of the grim city at night is one we might recognise from older literature, the third-person narrator is seeing it with new eyes and speaking about it with a new voice in English lit. Here's another London beginning, this time from Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall, the first novel in her amazing trilogy charting the rise and terrible fall of Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII's advisor until he got his head chopped off. This novel is of course set in the 16th century, but it begins, the feeling is, right now. So now get up. Felled, dazed, silent, he has fallen, knocked full length on the cobbles of the yard. His head turned sideways, his eyes are turned towards the gate as if someone might arrive to help him out. One blow, properly placed, could kill him now. I've just finished the last part of Mantel's mighty trilogy, and looking back at this paragraph, there's so much that's seeded here that finds an echo in the later events of the novel. The eyes looking for help in the moments just before their death. Bodies felled and silent, but of course When we set out in a novel like this, we have no idea that all of that is coming up. But everything about the beginning signals Mantell's intentions for how to read this work. We're not getting a load of easy context for our character. We won't, in fact, find out his name for a page or two when he's being cleaned up after this beating and someone remarks that they don't want bits of Thomas all over their jacket. Cromwell is just he here, in the very close third person which Mantell uses throughout the novel. We hear and see only what Cromwell does. We are privy to all his thoughts. It feels like we're in first person or second person. I have fallen, or you have fallen. And of course, although this is a historical novel, it's in the present tense. Its tone and style are modern. There's no fake old world speech here. We get a phrase like help him out. It gives the prose an amazing urgency and force. Wolf Hall begins with that animating aggression of, it's Cromwell's father, in fact, his command, so now get up. And it feels as if we're all being told to get up, to begin, to get going. The moment's held in suspension. He could die with one blow, and then all the chain of events which follow would wink out. But this is a beginning in the middle of things. But there's also a sense that the Cromwell that will follow until he's felled again, right at the end of the books, is born at this moment. My last example is a beginning which is all about how hard it is to get started. You might know the famous lines from Samuel Beckett, fail again, fail better, which sometimes are trotted out as a kind of self-help phrase, but they come from his prose work, Worsted Hoe, and they feel very different in context. Worsted Hoe seems to be about a story which is struggling to be told. It's about how difficult it is to tell a story. It begins, on, say on, be said on, somehow on, till know how on said, know how on. Say for be said, missaid, from now, say for missaid. Say a body where none, no mind where none, that at least. A place where none, for the body to be in, move in, out of, back into, no, not out, no back, only in. Stay in, on in, still. All of old, nothing else ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. So it starts with this hopeful word, on. It's a generative word, it makes things happen. It makes me think of the beginning of Genesis, the words, let there be light. Or perhaps because Beckett is best known as a playwright, it makes us think of an empty stage. It's like a stage direction for a spotlight to suddenly come on. But what's to happen next? Immediately afterwards, there's a sense of faltering or failing. And we have to start the problem of translating these bold, elliptical statements into some kind of sense. The speaker is going to try to go on till know how on, until they can't go on anymore. And they've admitted even that they can't say anything. The next line suggests that anything that might be said, that might make it out of the mouth of this uncertain narrator, will be missaid. It'll be wrong somehow. But let's try anyway, it seems to say. Into that light that on created, we're asked to put a body. That phrase, say a body. Now, try and catch yourself before you think too hard and too consciously about it. When you're told to say a body, did you see a body, or maybe just the shape of a body for the word body in your mind? And then later, when we're asked to think of a place for the body to be, did you come up with any kind of place? I think I see my bare stage again, only now there's a shape of a person, maybe a chalk square around them. Not much of a place, not 16th century London, but something. There was nothing, and now Beckett has given us something. He's put something in place. And that's a great beginning, which seems like a good place to end.